happens...
Does that look like you're ignoring their phone calls? What does that look like?
Well, no, it takes me a day or 2 or 3 to get back with them.
Okay.
Now, if they shoot me a quick text, I'll shoot them a text back, you know, if it's a relevant question. But a lot of times the questions can be answered on the website, and the only reason they're calling you is because they got to have the answer right now, right? But they're not that important. A lot of times the questions aren't really that important, and you'll know. You can text them back and say, what's your question? And they ask you the question, and then you say, check the website under here, and that's it. You don't need to call them back all the time. And then also, this is a real key one for me. It's very, very rare that I'll spend more than 5 minutes on the phone with somebody with questions. Very rare. I'm on the phone. I let them know I'm in between some things. I only have a couple of minutes because I don't want them to feel like I'm real friendly about it. And, you know, I let them know. I say, you know, the whole idea, again, is like the simplicity of it. So there's very few questions that can't be answered in 5 minutes, you know, very few questions. And then a lot of times I'll say, I text a lot. I do text a lot. I'll text, if they say I have a question, can you talk? I say, can you email me the question? And then I'll answer it back. Because, again, an email I can answer in a matter of seconds. A phone conversation sometimes takes longer. It's, again, what do I want them to do with their people to free them up so that they're not having to spend hours on the phone? If they see me spending hours on the phone with them, what are they going to think? Oh, man, I got to spend hours on the phone with my people. Right. I can't do this business.
The bigger my group gets, the busier I'll get. And, you know, you and I talked about that, and we actually used that as the headline in this email that I sent out, because it's very much, even if they haven't verbally said it, it's in their subconscious. And if you're throwing off the activities that tell them the bigger my group gets, the busier I'll be, they may even subconsciously destroy their own business so that they don't have to get to that point. I mean, I actually believe that.
There's no question. You know, also keep in mind, there's usually, as your group grows and you get a bigger group, there's layers of leadership between you and the people a lot of times asking you the questions. With the internet today, anybody can pretty much get to anyone. And then with Facebook, so you'll get posts from your downline, you know, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 12, 15 levels down. You'll get posts in the Facebook inbox or emails from people, you know, with questions for you. And you really need to encourage them to go to their direct upline versus coming to you. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be burned out. You know, all of you want to be successful. You all want to have a worldwide organization with tens of thousands of people, and you want to have big money coming in every month, pouring into your checking account every single month. Well, the only way that's going to happen is if you take a hands-off approach. Now, you take a hands-on approach with the new people you sponsor, and sometimes with their people, just getting them started. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned, Art, was from Steve Smith from my last network marketing company. I love this. He had 2.5 million people in his organization. Now, how the heck do you manage a group of 2.5 million people? Really? Yeah. 2.5 million people, and I watched him, and I just modeled him. This was before the internet. This was before Facebook. He did not know how to send an email. So we have challenges today that have been created as a result of the easy flow of communication. He didn't have the same challenges. However, I took the lessons that I learned from him and I applied them to my business today. He gave the same speech for 16 years. It was the same 1-hour speech. After the third time you heard it, you were bored out of your mind. He had a stutter, he spoke slowly, and he built a group of 2.5 million people with a 1-hour talk. And his talk did not change in 16 years. It was the same talk. He talked about simplicity, and he talked about there's never been a book written, a success book written, that talked about how you could quit your way to success. You know, he talked about that. He said quitters never take responsibility for quitting. They always blame the company or blame their upline or blame, you know, their product or something. They're always blaming somebody else for quitting. But he says, he used to say, I would never have somebody call me and say I'm quitting, and the reason I'm quitting is because I'm just a quitter. But he did the same talk, 1-hour talk, in his Texas drawl, spoke slowly with a stutter, and he did that for 16 years and built a group of 2.5 million people. And when someone would ask him a question, his answer to the question was, I don't know about that, but I do know this. If you fill out the blue form, which was the distributor form, and you have somebody attach a check for $400 and you mail it to the company, they're going to send you $100 back. I do know that. So anytime somebody would ask him a question, for 16 years, they'd ask a question, Steve, tell me how the comp plan works, or Steve, tell me, you know, what the company's planning on doing in terms of international expansion. Steve goes, well, I don't know about that, But I do know this. If you have somebody fill out the blue form and attach a check for $400 and then attach a couple red forms to it, which are the customer forms, mail that to the company, they're going to send you $100 back. He used to say that speech over and over and over again. And I thought to myself, well, he's got a simple message. He's consistent. He's out meeting people, building relationships, shaking hands. And whenever somebody asks an irrelevant question, he redirects it back to the relevant questions, right? The relevant answers. Mm-hmm. That's all he did. So I just started doing exactly the same thing. And I thought to myself, you know what? If everybody just did that, your group will explode, right? It's that simple. And the simpler you keep your business, the more likely somebody's going to say, I can do this. You can come up with a really elaborate, complex marketing plan for your network marketing company or your network marketing business. And people may say, wow, this is really cool, but I could never do that. I just don't have the time. I could never learn that. Well, then what happens is people don't do it because they don't believe they can do it. They don't believe they have the time. They don't believe they're smart enough. Everybody would look at Steve and go, Steve was a pretty smart guy, but they'd look at him and they go, wow, if this guy can build a business with 5,000, 10,000, 20, 50, 100,000, a million people, I can do it. That's all he's doing, the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
So that's what I try and do with people.
Michelangelo said the ultimate sophistication is simplicity.
Absolutely.
And Steve, I know you mentioned a few of his stories in Beach Money, and every time I see somebody that's been able to make something as simple as possible but no simpler, and what that means is that it actually still works, and that's an Einstein quote, make something as simple as possible but no simpler, what that tells me is that they're actually super intelligent. Any idiot can complicate things. I mean that in a nice way, myself included, right? But it really does take a very smart person like Steve to make it so simple and that it still works. And even though he may appear to not be intelligent, he actually is the smartest guy in the room. McDonald's is all a simple thing. The fries go on the left, right? Every single time. It's so simple, it's mundane. Monotonous level marketing is what I call MLM sometimes because of that. But the results are extraordinary. Now,
absolutely.
How long were you with Steve's company?
So I was there 13 years.
13 years. And now you've been with your company 5 now?
6 years and 2 months, right?
6 years and 2 months. And I don't bring that to just bring up figures. I just want everybody on the call to understand when you hear somebody say, well, that was my last company, Jordan's a very faithful person. So if the company's there, he's there for them. And so he's not he's not what I call an MLM flea where you're jumping from dog to dog to dog, so to speak.
Right.
They long-term things. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that was 6 years ago, and he was there for 13 years. And of all those 2.5 million people, you were in the top, was it 20 or top 25?
Top 20, yeah. And when I joined the company, there were about 30,000 distributors, and it was so funny because when I joined the company, people were telling me, "Oh, it's saturated. You'll never make any money at that."
Yeah. So I went on your Facebook. I saw a photo of you with Steve Tyler and Joe Perry down here in Houston. You're renting private jets sometimes for your team, getting photos, flying to Australia. You've got, hanging out with Kathy Ireland is on your team. I think Elizabeth Taylor and Janet Jackson are in your organization somewhere. You've got a very relaxed look. You're, a suit and tie. I think the last time I saw you in a suit and tie was that one day that you got up on stage at Mastermind event for one of your talks. So that was a panel discussion with Randy Cage.
That was fun.
That was an amazing panel, a lot of fun there. Those of you that were there, you'll never forget that. You are living the Jordan Adler lifestyle. You've accomplished it through simplicity. You talked to me one time, you said, make it so simple that I can do it right now so that I don't need you. That's a Jordan-ism to me.
The 8-year-old test.
Tell me about that.
If an 8-year-old can't do it, and if an 8-year-old can't teach it now, then don't do it. An 8-year-old should be able to do your business.
That's pretty good. Well, I got a 17-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I'll divide the two, see how it goes.
There you go.
We want to create independent people instead of dependent people. There's a saying that I've learned from Orrin Woodward. He says, love people, but let them see your taillights. And the way that I translate that is exactly what you do. It's amazing when you find the commonalities. Donna Johnson has the same philosophy. Randy Gage has the same philosophy, and that is you are working, you're sponsoring, you're helping those new people get started. That's let them see your taillights. That you're always working, and if they, but you're there to love them if they need it, but not to give a hand, to give a hand out, but to give a hand up when possible.
you want to have a life that others want a piece of at some level. And when I say that, I mean, you may not want to hang out with Steven Tyler and Kathy Ireland. I don't hang out with Steven Tyler. I met him, and I had an opportunity to meet him, and Kathy Ireland happened to come into my organization because someone way down in my organization knew her and worked for her at some point, and she signed up Janet Jackson and Elizabeth Taylor, so I had nothing to do with that. I haven't met them. It's kind of fun to say. But, you know, depending on what it is for you, you want to live a life that others get inspired by, so that there's a balance. You know, you've got to find a balance between working and showing people that, yes, you do have to do some work. It's not just sitting around hanging out and living the life. You got to do a little work too, but you also have to have a life that people, you know, I had a guy, he's actually in our company, but he wasn't part of my organization. And the guy took pride in the fact that he would work 14-hour days. The guy's got a family, and, you know, he's married. I think he's got 5 or 6 kids. And on top of that, he was working 14-hour days. And every time you'd see the guy, his hair would be all messed up, his shirt would be wrinkled, and he looked like hell because he was working so darn hard. I mean, he looked tired. He'd get bags under his eyes. But he took pride, and he used to tell people how hard he would work. And he took pride in that. And in reality, that's not a life that inspires others. Most people look at that and go, I would never want to be like that guy. I will never work that hard. So you want to find a balance between working and also living a life that's worthy, that's worth others wanting to emulate. So, and you know, you may not, it doesn't have to be, it could be taking 2 days a month and going on some really cool little 2-day vacation somewhere. Take a small percentage of your income and just do something nice for your family and then post it on Facebook so people know that you're actually enjoying the benefits of your network marketing business.